Hi, my dear students. Welcome to the session. My name is Juhi Narula. In this video, we are going to practice some reading comprehension passages. Let's get started. So, see, when we talk about reading comprehension, I'm sure you must have watched the previous videos. We have talked about how to map the passage. Now, that's very important. Mapping means that you're doing some scratch paper work so that you are able to trace the passage once you're done reading. With three intents: to keep your focus intact, second, to know the questions which are based on overall understanding of the text, and for specific questions, you should know where to visit. Right. So this is one major thing. Second, we talked about how question understanding is paramount. And third, on what grounds we can eliminate. Instead of selecting the answer choices, we should rather eliminate the incorrect options. So what we'll do is, since it's a practice session, I'll give you some time to go through the passage and then we are going to map it together. So for this particular slide, quickly take 1 minute and read it nicely, map it, and then we are going to discuss. Get started. So let's begin with the discussion. Let me show it to you how I would map this particular passage. Now see, first few lines are important. So always pay attention to the beginning. These are important because they help us understand what is the passage talking about, right? So keep this in mind that this is essential in question solving. More and more companies, government agencies, educational institutions, and philanthropic. So it comes from two words. Phil means love, and anthro means mankind. So philanthropic organization means organizations which are into charity, right? Are today in the grip of new phenomena, metric fixation. So here there is this term introduced, and already the heading of the discussion or the passage is metric fixation. So wherever I'm mapping, I can write that we are talking about metric fixation. Now, the key components of metric fixation are the belief that is possible and desirable to replace professional judgment acquired through personal experience and talent with numerical indicators of comparative performance based on standardized data, that's metrics, and the best way to motivate people within the organization is by attaching rewards and penalties to their measured performance. So they're saying instead of observing and reaching to the discussion, let's attach some numbers and some data, which they are terming as metrics, and based on that, you attach rewards and penalties. So this is a way, this is explaining what metric fixation is. So you can write there's an explanation for metric fixation, or they're defining metric fixation, right? So that simply means that, say you are in an organization, so you are achieving a certain target. If you're able to achieve, then you'll be getting some rewards. If you're not able to achieve, you might get penalties. How are you performing? How are you working hard? That's clearly reflected by numbers. That's what metric fixation says. So see, the sentence is lengthy, but if you will go slow and read it in order to, absorb the information, you'll find that it's not that pressure creating as you in earlier thought of, right? So this is how we have understood the first paragraph. That, see, it's talking about metric fixation, and the companies and agencies and institutions are relying on this. And the next part of the paragraph or the later sentence is trying to explain that how metric fixation works, or what is metric fixation. right? So in case the question comes at what do we mean by metric fixation, or how is the author defining metric fixation, so you know where to go back. You'll come to the second line of the first paragraph. So that's what mapping helps us to do. So let's come to the next paragraph. The rewards can be monetary in forms of pay for performance, say, or reputational in forms of college rankings, hospital ratings, surgical report cards, and so on. So how do we observe the results, right? Observe or reward, right? So we can just see that in case the question comes, which of the following is not considered to be in the way of rewarding? So you can come back to this line and get the answer. But the most dramatic negative effect of metric fixation is its propensity to incentivize gaming. That is, so here we can write that this is talking about negative impact. So the question comes that what is the negative impact? You know where to go back. So always keep, while you know this in mind, that if the question comes from this line, what would be the question? So once you are trying to be on the other side of the table where you are trying to create questions, then you will find your role really sorted in dealing with the entire comprehension. So they are saying that it's saying its propensity to incentivize gaming. So incentive, say word I incentivize. That is encouraging professionals to maximize the metrics in a way that are at odds with the larger purpose of the organization. अब suppose करें किसी ट्रेनर को ये गोल मिला कि आपको इतने नंबर ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स को इनरोल करना है अपने कोर्स में, तो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का गोल तो ये होना चाहिए कि आप स्टूडेंट्स को बेनिफिट करो थ्रू योर टीचिंग, बट टीचर का फोकस में भी रेवेन्यू पे चला जाए. जस्ट वन एग्जाम्पल, राइट? सो दैट विल take away the focus towards the larger goal of the organization. So that's the dramatic negative impact. So the question comes, what is the negative impact? You can come to second line of the first paragraph. If the rate of major crimes in a district becomes the metric according to which police officers are promoted, then some officers will respond by simply not recording crimes or downgrading them from major offenses to misdemeanors. अब इसका एक इन्होंने एग्जाम्पल दिया, तो आप ये एग्जाम्पल लिख सकते हो, पुलिस ऑफिसर. तो यहाँ पे आप वेर एवर यू आर मेकिंग योर नोट्स, कैन राइट एग्जाम्पल एंड आई कैन राइट पुलिस ऑफिसर. सो व्हाट इज इट सजेस्टिंग? इट इज सजेस्टिंग that सपोज करिए क्राइम आपके एरिया में कम हो रहा है, तो पुलिस ऑफिसर को रिवॉर्ड करेंगे. तो हो सकता है वो क्राइम्स रिकॉर्ड ही ना करे, या बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग इंटेंसिटी के क्राइम को लो इंटेंसिटी का क्राइम बना के रिपोर्ट कर दे. Or take the case of surgeons. So this is another example, right? This is example 2, and here we are talking about surgeons. When the metrics of success and failure are made public, affecting their reputation and income, some surgeons will improve their metric scores by refusing to operate on patients with more complex problems whose surgical outcomes are more likely to be negative. Who suffers? The patients who don't get operated upon. So they are giving another instance कि surgeon वो शायद critical complex cases को लेगा ही नहीं अगर उस की परफॉर्मेंस को ट्रैक कर रहे हो आप, राइट? सो आई एम श्योर वी आर क्लियर. देखिए, अगर आप एक बार पैराग्राफ्स पढ़ लेते हैं तो यू शुड नो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इन द डिस्कशन. प्रिसाइज होने की जरूरत नहीं है. आपने कहा मेट्रिक फिक्सेशन की बात हो रही है. मेट्रिक फिक्सेशन क्या है, इसको फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ में डिफाइन किया, राइट? अब आप एक 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 डिटेल पे जाएंगे तो इतना आप याद नहीं कर पाओगे. वी शुड नो वेयर टू कम बैक, but it's in a way parallelly we should be able to trace that what's the flow of information. Second paragraph में किस तरीके से रिवॉर्ड करें, नेगेटिव ड्रामेटिक इम्पैक्ट की बात हुई, और दो एग्जाम्पल दे, पुलिस ऑफिसर्स के और सर्जन्स के. तो जैसे जैसे क्वेश्चन आएगा मेरे लिए इंफॉर्मेशन ट्रेसिंग आसान है, बिकॉज आई एम नोटिंग डाउन समवेयर इन द स्क्रैच पेपर. डू दिस विल कीप यू मोर इन्वॉल्व, and this will really help you in solving the questions which are based on the general idea and also the specific questions, right? So let's move to the second page. I'll again give you a minute, read it, and then we are going to discuss. Now let's discuss. When reward is tied to measure performance, metric fixation invites this sort of gaming. So if you will see, but metric fixation also leads a variety of more subtle, unintended negative consequences. So, are we able to understand that they are still talking about the negative consequences? So, we can again say that they are mentioning that what are the negative consequences of metric fixation. These include, and now they are listing it, right? So the list is provided. Goal displacement, which comes in many varieties. So this is the first point that they talk about. When performance is judged by few measures and the stakes are high. So keeping one's job, getting a pay rise, or raising the stock price at the same time that stock options are vested, people focus on satisfying those measures, often at the expense of others, more important organizational goals that are not measured. Like, the police officer will not focus, as the example is provided in the previous paragraph, on reducing the cases. He would just try to, so the organization goal of the police is to ensure that the crimes are minimized and justice and law remains to be intact. But what is he trying to do? He's trying to ensure that his report card remains proper. So it's getting distracted from the larger goal of the organization. The best example is teaching to the test, a widespread phenomena that has distorted primary and secondary education in the United States since the adoption of No Child Left Behind Act. So there are two things which you should note. Teaching to the test phenomena. So they are talking about a phenomena. In case the question comes, you know where to go back. And then what is the name of the program? No Child Left Behind. So in case the question comes, we know where to go back. Another example they are taking into consideration, right? So let's read further. Short termism is another negative. So they are talking about the second negative. So the first one was that goal displacement, right? So this was one. And now let's see. Measured performance encourages what the US sociologist Robert K. Menon in 1936 called the imperious immediacy of interest, where the actor's paramount concern with the foreseen immediate consequences excludes consideration of further of other consequences. So you see, whenever there is a proper noun, please note down that proper noun, right? There is a good possibility that the question might be asked and you know where to go back. So you can mark Robert K. Morton, right? So he's saying that, your focus deviates. In short, advancing short-term goals at the expense of large range consideration. So this is the crux. Now what happens is that you'll see, read this line, they you might get intimidated, कितना कॉम्प्लेक्स स्टेटमेंट है. थोड़ा सा पेशेंस रख के इंस्टेड ऑफ री रीडिंग इट मूव फॉरवर्ड, आपको उसी का सिंपल वर्जन नेक्स्ट स्टेटमेंट में ऑफर कर दिया, राइट? सो दिस इज समथिंग विच यू नीड टू understand, that how the passages are driven and what should be the right technique to approach the passages. This problem is endemic to publicly traded corporations that sacrifice long-term research and development in the development of their staff to the perceived imperatives of the quarterly report. So again एक example दे दिया कि भाई public traded corporations में भी ये होता है कि long term ना employee की growth देखते हैं ना R&D में invest कर रहे हैं, but immediately जो number आपकी quarterly report ने focus कर दिया उस पे आपका सारा ध्यान चला जाता है, right? सो आई होप वी आर क्लियर. तो जब आप इस पेज को भी पढ़ लो या एक पैराग्राफ दो पैराग्राफ्स को पढ़ लो, फिर एक रिदम एस्टैब्लिश कर लो. नेगेटिव कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस की बात कर रहे हैं, एक गोल डिस्प्लेसमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं, फिर उन्होंने कहा कि शॉर्ट टर्म फोकस हो जाता है, दूसरे गोल की बात करिए. टीचिंग टू द टेस्ट का एक एग्जाम्पल दिया है जिसमें नो चाइल्ड लेफ्ट बिहाइंड की बात करिए. यूएस सोशोलॉजिस्ट रॉबर्ट के मॉर्टन का थॉट प्रेजेंट किया. अब क्या थॉट है ये रिटेन मत करो, क्योंकि आप कोई शक्तिमान तो है नहीं कि पहली बार टेक्स्ट को इनकाउंटर करेंगे और इन्फॉर्मेशन को ऑब्जॉर्व कर जाएंगे. सो यू शुड नो वेयर टू revisit, and that I think we can. Again, they've given another example of public traded corporations and their behavior. So I hope we are clear with how the flow of ideas is happening and where can we go back in case certain questions are driven. Right? So it's time to solve the questions now. So let's try the first one. Of the following, which would have added the least depth to author's argument? तो least depth का मतलब है कि value नहीं add करेगा author के perspective पे. So an analysis of the reasons why metric fixation is becoming popular despite its drawbacks, right? तो ये तो करेगा. right? As comparative case study of metrics and non-metric based evaluation and impact on the main goal of organization, ये study भी contribute करेगी. More real life illustrations of the consequences of employees and professionals gaming मेट्रिक बेस्ड परफॉर्मेंस मेजरमेंट सिस्टम्स, तो ये तो नहीं हेल्प करता. हम तो कह रहे हैं मेट्रिक फिक्सेशन की एडवांटेजेस डिसएडवांटेजेस पे बात हो रही है, तो वो कैसे इलास्ट्रेशंस पे काम करते हैं, दिस विल नॉट. सो दिस इज पॉसिबली विच विल नॉट कंट्रीब्यूट. assessment of the pros and cons of a professional judgment based on evaluation system, तो pros and cons तो definitely contribute करेगा, so even this can go out, so the correct answer would be C in this case, right? So let's move to the next question. Which of the following is not a consequence? Please pay attention to these words. At times questions में एक trap होता है जो हम कई बार avoid कर जाते हैं. Please don't do that. Ensure that your understanding of the question is appropriate, right? So which of the following is not a consequence? So let's take a look at this question. Short term orientation induced by frequent measurements of performance. Yes, ये तो होगा. So this cannot be an answer. Finding a way to show better results without actually, for police officer or surgeons का case. Improving cooperation among employees leading to increased organizational effectiveness. तो उस गोल पे तो काम ही नहीं कर रहे, right? So this can be one answer. Deviating from organizational important objectives to measurable yet less important objectives. So yes, right. So the correct answer is going to be 3 in this case, right? So I hope we are sorted. Let's move to the next question. Maybe you can try this, just explore the answer choices and then we get into the discussion. If needed, you can go back, right? So you can go back to that particular slide. You can, since it's a recorded video, you can go back and see the passage if required. And don't hesitate in doing so. So at times we see students का ego hurt हो जाता है, मैं passage पे वापस नहीं जाऊंगा. No, don't do this. It would rather bring more focus and clarity, right? So let's take a look at the options. Some professionals are likely to be significantly influenced by the design of performance measured systems. तो ठीक है, ऐसा हो सकता है, बट इफ यू विल सी द बेटर वन, मेट्रिक लिंक्ड रिवॉर्ड्स में इंकरेज अनएथिकल बिहेवियर. तो अनएथिकल बिहेवियर के एग्जांपल्स देंगे कि पुलिस ऑफिसर्स क्राइम को रिकॉर्ड नहीं करेंगे और सर्जन्स कॉम्प्लेक्स केसेस को नहीं लेंगे. सो बिटवीन ए एंड बी, बी डेफिनेटली इज अ बेटर चॉइस. The action of police officers have a significant impact. No, irrelevant. Critical public roles should not be evaluated. Should not be evaluated is stronger than the claim made by the author. So we will go for 2 as the final answer. Right? So let's try the next one. Again, take a minute to solve it and then we discuss it. I'm sure you have tried, so let's discuss. All of the following can be a possible feature of the, see, देखो can be है, so there's a possibility. So if you know the lot of details are not provided with the program, so based on the essence of the discussion, you need to see which choice fits in, right? So स्कूल फंडिंग एंड सैंक्शंस आर टाइड टू ईयरली इंप्रूवमेंट, तो ये तो मेट्रिक असेसमेंट का पॉइंट होगा, तो हमें तो एक्सेप्ट देखना है. सो अगेन प्लीज टेक क्लू ऑफ दीज वर्ड्स. दीज आर ग्रेट ट्रैप ट्रिक्स, बट डोंट गेट इनटू इट. Standardized test scores can be critical in determining students' educational future. Yes, metrics पे काम कर रहे हो आप, तो the focus is more on test taking skills rather than higher order thinking and problem solving, right? So assessment is dependent on teacher's subjective evaluation of students participation. तो accept, क्योंकि वो तो एक example दे रहा है कि ये metric fixation का एक example है, तो teacher फिर subjective evaluation तो करेगा नहीं, more numbers पे dependent होगा. So fourth will be the answer, right? Let's try this. Let's begin with the discussion. What is the main idea that the author is trying to highlight? Long term organizational goals should not be ignored for short term measures of organizational success. देखिए बहुत इनकरेक्ट नहीं है, रखा जा सकता है. All kind of organizations are now relying on metrics to perform measures, तो all extreme हो जाएगा, right? So this is the reason B we can eliminate. Evaluating performance by using measurable performance metrics may misguide organizational goal achievement, right? So ये should not be ignored. वो बोल नहीं रहा, वो एक generally discuss कर रहा है कि ऐसा हो सकता है. So if you will compare 1 and 3, you'll find 3 better. So on that ground, 1 can be eliminated. Performance measurement needs to be precise and cost effective. Cost effectiveness की तो कहीं बात ही नहीं हुई है. So we will go for third as an answer. So in some way, when you find that you are somehow convinced with A, don't force yourself to eliminate it there and then, right? जब आप gradually नीचे जाएंगे and you'll explore the other options, you'll, if there are other options that can serve as a better answer, you'll be able to see that, right? But just don't force. Take a look at all the answer choices before you take a final call. So clearly 3 is definitely better than 1, so we'll pick 3 as the final answer. So I hope we are sorted with this particular passage. Let's try the next one. Very interesting. So read it and then we are going to discuss. I'll give you a minute. So let's begin the discussion. Not everything looks lovelier the longer and closer its inspection, but Saturn does. So, like I said, few lines, initial line should be read properly. So they're saying Saturn looks nice. So we are talking about Saturn. It's gorgeous through earthly telescopes. Take a look at the transition. However, the 13 years of close observation provided by Cassini. So again, there's a proper noun. In case the question comes, what is Cassini or what was the observation of Cassini, we know where to go back. An American spacecraft showed the planet its moon and its remarkable rings of better and better, revealing finer structures, striking novelties, and greater drama. So, the observation. So, this is explaining the observation of Cassini. So, they say Saturn is looking beautiful, and the later statement explains that how it was observed by an American spacecraft, and the name of the spacecraft was Cassini. Now, don't get into the details to retain अच्छा क्या क्या points बोले हैं मैं भी याद कर लेती हूँ. Don't do that. When the question comes, we will go back and get the answer. Let's further proceed. By and large, the big things in the solar system, planets and moons, are thought of having been since seen around the beginning. The suggestion that rings and moons are new is, though, made more interesting by the fact that one of those moons, Enceladus. So, again, there's a proper noun, so you have to note it down in case the question comes, we know where to go back, is widely considered the most promising site in the solar system on which to look for alien life. So the question might come that why the author has mentioned Enceladus, and we know where to go back and fetch the answer. If Enceladus is both young and bears life, that life must come into being quickly. This is also believed to have been the case on Earth. Were it true on Enceladus, that would encourage the idea that life evolves easily where conditions are right. So, why are we talking about Enceladus? The entire description is there. The question comes on Enceladus, we know where to go back, right? So, I hope we are sorted. Let's move to the next page. Again, take a minute to read it. Do note making wherever and whenever needed, and then we will discuss. So let's read this. One reason for thinking Saturn's rings are young is that they are bright. So, uh, first is, how do we think Saturn rings are young? So then they're providing an explanation because they are bright. The solar system is suffused with comet dust, and comet dust is dark, leaving Saturn's ring system, which Cassini has shown to be more than 90% water ice, is out in such a mist is like leaving laundry hanging on a line downwind from a smokestack. It will get dirty. So they are saying that solar system is suffused with comet dust, and the comet dust is dark. तो वो क्या होगा कि अगर आप expose करोगे तो वो dark हो जाएगी, पर ये इतनी dark नहीं है. इसकी वजह से ये हम कह सकते हैं कि the rings are young because that much impact has not been created. So here they are creating an analogy, mist like leaving laundry hanging on a line downward from a smokestack. मतलब आपने कपड़े सुखा दिए where there is a lot of smoke coming, so definitely it will get dirty. So in case the question comes on the analogy, we know where to go back. The lighter the rings are, the faster this will happen. For the less mass they contain, the less celestial pollution they can absorb before they start to discolor. Jeff Cousy. So we can again, there's a proper noun. So in case the question comes, we know where to go back. A scientist at America's space agency NASA, who helped run Cassini, told the Lunar and Planetary Scientific Conference House in Houston that combining the mass estimates with Cassini measurements of the density of comet dust near Saturn suggests the rings are no older than the first dinosaurs nor younger than the last of them. That is, they are somewhere between 200 million and 70 million odd. So they are trying to decipher the age. Right. So, in case the question comes that what was the opinion of Zev Kuzi, can you see the length of the statement? Like, my only fear when I teach comprehension to students is that I really get intimidated. Are you seeing the sentence is never ending? In fact, the entire paragraph has just got one long sentence. Are you able to see? And that's where students get phased out. So please understand that when we know that such sort of a situation can come, so we have to be mentally prepared, right? There is no point that you get nervous and anxious there that इतना लंबा statement आ गया, आप उसको फर्दर सब सेंटेंसेस में खुद ब्रेक कर दीजिए. मतलब आप देख लीजिए, मुझे यहाँ पर आपके हिसाब से मुझे यहाँ पर एक पॉज लेना है या इधर एक पॉज लेना है, जितनी आपकी एबिलिटी है टू absorb the information. Of course, अगर इतने सेंटेंस को you are going to study or read or try to absorb in one go, I am sure it's going to be really really difficult. So we have to find a way, right? So we know that Jeff Cousy is giving an opinion, is trying to come to an age aspect of the rings. So first thing, you don't need to remember everything. We will come back. That is the reason we are doing mapping, and that is the reason I always suggest that you should be clear that we should not keep this goal where we are trying to retain every information. That's not humanly possible. If you're encountering the text for the first time in your life, how would you do that, right? So just gather that what is the flow of discussion happening. Like after reading this particular page, I will say that they're giving an explanation that why we consider Saturn rings to be bright, and then the first explanation is of solar system, and then they've created an analogy. तो अगर आपको explanation पे retain नहीं कर पा रहे तो आपको पता है, हमने लिख दिया explanation. अब this is my way, I'm doing shortcut क्योंकि मैं note making नहीं कर रही, मैं बस स्क्रैच पेपर वर्क कर रही हूँ, मुझे समझ में आ जाए. अगर ई एक्स पी से मुझे समझ में आ जाता है एक्सप्लेनेशन है, और आपको ई एक्स पी एल ए आई एन करके आ जाता है, या योर ओन वे ऑफ डूइंग इट, तो आप वैसे करो. आपको कंफर्टेबल होना चाहिए कि मुझे इन्फॉर्मेशन को कहाँ ट्रेस करना है, बिकॉज नो बडी इज गिविंग यू मार्क्स ऑन दिस, राइट? तो प्लीज कीप दिस इन माइंड. अब अगर एट टाइम स्टूडेंट्स आस्क कि मैम आप तो स्क्रीन पर लिख रहे हैं तो हम कैसे करेंगे, तो आप ये लिख लो. लाइक इफ आई वुड हैव बीन सेकंड पेज फर्स्ट पैरा, right? So you can write explanation, analogy, right? Second para, Zef Kuzi, and age, right? So you can just write it like this on the paper. So there is no major trouble. The points will be clear. Relocating the information will not be a hassle then, right? So let's read this again a minute for you, and then we start with the discussion. So let's begin with the discussion. The timing fits well with a theory put forward in 2016 by Matija Cook of the City Institute in California and his colleagues. So that timing theory. So we were knowing age, जहाँ पे वो dinosaurs से बात कर रहे हैं previous scientists. Now there is another theory by Matija. So the question comes कि Matija Cook की क्या theory है or who is Matija Cook? So we can come back, right? They suggest that at around the same time as the rings came into being, an old set of moons orbiting Saturn destroyed themselves. And from there remains emerged not only the rings but also planet's current suit of inner moons, Rhea, Dion, Tethys, Enceladus, and Mimas. So Enceladus की हमने पहले भी बात करी थी. बस what is the output, right? Or what is the say of the scientist and the team? So we can just come back and get the information of who's suggesting me to get into all these details which are so troublesome, right? So if I'm a person who's not interested in geography or such ideas, it would be intimidating. I will not get intimidated. I know that they're saying that the timing aspect considered by the previous scientist is fitting well by another scientist, and what is the output of his study or what is he trying to suggest is in the paragraph. If the question comes ना, मेरे पास पूरा पैराग्राफ तो रिटेन करने का प्रेशर नहीं है ना. मेरे को क्वेश्चन पता है और मैं स्पेसिफिकली उन्हीं लाइंस पे रिविजिट कर रही हूँ जहाँ से आंसर आ रहा है. तो ऑफ कोर्स माय फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड, माय pressure, my clarity, everybody, everything would be at the right place, right? Dr. Cook and his colleagues used computer simulations of Saturn's moon orbits as a sort of time machine. So, how they did it? So, I can just write how. Looking at the rate at which tidal friction is causing these orbits to lengthen, they extrapolated backwards to find out what these orbits would have looked like then. So, they're explaining the procedure. They've discovered that about 100 million years ago, the orbits, two of them, Tethys and Dion, would have integrated. So, what is the feedback or studies result on Tethys and Dion? So, we can come back. Would have interacted in a way that left the planes in which they orbit markedly tilted, but the orbits are untilted. The obvious, if unsettling conclusion was that this interaction never happened. So, what are they concluding? You can just write conclusion. And thus, to again, conclusion indicated that the time when it should have happened, Dion and Tethys were simply not there. They must have come into being later. So, based on the study, what are you concluding? That's there, right? So, I'm sure we are clear with what's happening in the passage, right? I know this is intimidating, lot of technical information, so students really get boggled. But what do you need to see? Saturn, what is the output of the American spacecraft Cassini that the result is showing? Then they're talking about Enceladus, which is one of the moons of Saturn, and how life is there. That's being talked about. Then they're talking about why it is considered that Saturn rings are young. They're giving an explanation. Then they're creating an analogy. Then Zev Kuzi's की एक study को discuss कर रहे हैं. फिर मतीजा कुक जो सेटी इंस्टीट्यूट के हैं वो भी उस आइडिया को कैरी फॉरवर्ड कर रहे हैं. फिर how the study happened, that's being talked about, and the based on it what is the conclusion. The flow of ideas आपको clear है. Where and when the information is placed, you know. So question answering would not be that difficult. So the phrase leaving laundry hanging on a line downward from the smokestack is used to explain. So, what we can do is we can go back, right? Nobody is stopping us to go back. So, we did talk about an analogy created, right? We specifically placed this information कि यहाँ पर analogy की बात हो रही है. So, you can read it. The solar system is suffused with comet dust, and comet dust is dark, leaving Saturn's ring system out in such a mist is like leaving laundry hanging on a line downward from a smokestack. It will get dirty. So कह रहे हैं कि उस जो solar system की comet dust है उससे definitely डार्क हो जाएंगी Saturn rings और इतनी डार्क नहीं हुई इसलिए they are considered bright. So अब आप clear हो. अब आप question को of course in a more sharp manner you can answer. Atmosphere absorbs comet dust. तो atmosphere की तो बात हो नहीं. Moon creates a gap, कहीं नहीं बोला. Ring discolor and darken over time. That's what we are trying to say. So we can keep this. Ring lose mass. So how is it losing mass? Nowhere mentioned. So see, such technical passage and such quick answer, right? So let's come to the second one. Data provided by Cassini challenge the assumption that. तो आपको अगर Cassini की information पे जानना है तो आप वापस जा सकते हो, right? So we can go back in case you feel the need. Um, कैसिनी का डेटा कहाँ था? फर्स्ट में था its moon and its remarkable rings of better and better, revealing American finer structure, striking novelties, and greater drama. Right? Let's take a look. So all big things have been round since beginning. तो वो तो novel कह रहा है, so इस idea को तो definitely doubt कर रहा है. New celestial bodies can form, yes. Saturn ring system is composed, yes. Of ice, there was life on Earth with Saturn's rings were being formed. Even that's being discussed in the next paragraph. So we can go for A as an answer, right? Let's move to the third question. So we can go back. We can get the information from here. 90% water ice है. Comet dust is dark, right? उसके बाद the information is there, so you can gather the information and you can try the question now. मीथेन का तो कोई मेंशन ही नहीं है, राइट? तो आप थर्ड का ए ऑप्शन तो एलिमिनेट कर दीजिए. हीलियम और मीथेन कहीं नहीं बोला, हीलियम कहीं नहीं बोला. रॉक पार्टिकल्स एंड कॉमेट डस्ट, क्लियर क्लियर. एलिमिनेशन से कितना आसान हो जाएगा क्वेश्चन आंसरिंग, राइट? So let's try the fourth question. Provide evidence that Saturn rings and moons are recent creations. तो इसको तो रखा जा सकता है, right? Highlight the beauty, finer structure and celestial drama. ये information correct है on the basis of the paragraph. ये कैसिनी की observation थी, but you need to understand ये main objective of writing the entire passage नहीं है, इसलिए ये weak answer है. Demonstrate how the orbital patterns and moon change over time. ये objective नहीं है writing का. Established Saturn rings and inner moons have been around since beginning of time. No, वो तो recent है, right? So that is the reason we'll go for A as an answer, right? And you can try this and then we'll discuss. So let's see. We can conclude of the following except. So incorrect को pick करना है. Saturn's lighter rings discolor faster than rings with greater marks. Yes. Tethys and Diny are less than 100 million. Yes. None of the Saturn moons ever had suitable नहीं. Enceladus का example दिया तो this is incorrect. मतलब ये answer नहीं हो सकता, ये answer होगा. Saturn rings were created from remains. Yes, we can possibly say. So we will pick third as an answer. Right? Isn't it? तो आप अगर अब सोचिए, if you would have wasted time on the study how this happened, डॉक्टर कुक के क्या ऑब्जर्वेशन थी, आप कितना टाइम खराब करते हैं और इन पे बेस्ड कोई क्वेश्चन भी नहीं आया. सो प्लीज इंश्योर दैट जो आपका लिमिटेड टाइम है, यू हैव टू हैंडल इट वेरी इंटेलिजेंटली एंड रैशनली, राइट? So let's come to this passage. I'll give you a minute to read and then we'll move towards question solving. So let's see. Contemporary internet shopping conjures a perfect storm of choice anxiety. So लाइक आई सेड इनिशियल लाइंस में फोकस करिए, आई एम श्योर आपको बहुत रिलेटेबल लगेगा ये पैसेज। तो कह रहे हैं जो इंटरनेट शॉपिंग है उससे आपको बहुत चॉइस एंजाइटी हो जाती है। सो रिसर्चर्स हैव consistently held that people who are presented with few options make better, easier decisions than those who presented with many. So this is explaining that how the anxiety is there कि जिनके पास कम choices होती है वो effective decisions लेते हैं, और जिनके एज कम्पेयर टू पीपल जिनके पास चॉइसेस ज्यादा होती है। और कह रहे हैं कि इंटरनेट शॉपिंग से आपके पास चॉइसेस बहुत ज्यादा है जिसकी वजह से चॉइस एंजाइटी हो रही है। Helping consumers figure out what to buy amid an endless sea of choices online has become a cottage industry unto itself. तो ये cottage industry आई एम श्योर आपने देखा होगा, इतने इन्फ्लुएंसर्स हैं, so Instagram and everywhere on social media you'll find they order some some outfits, just an example, and they'll showcase how it looks like from different sites. So that's what they are doing, that's an industry. Many brands and retailers now wield marketing buzzwords such as curation, differentiation, and discovery as they attempt to sell assortment of stuff targeted to their ideal customer. What are they trying to do? They are trying to come to these terms. Curate करना क्या है, आपने different places से आप you if you are a working woman, just an instance, so you will have a label that's providing you the major brands that can suit your choices, right? Companies find such shoppers through the data gold mine of digital advertising. So आपको पता है data analytics has become so popular, which can catalog people by gender, income level, personal interest. So how are they categorizations? तो आप category की बात कर सकते हो, right? Since Americans have lost their ability to sort through the sheer volume of consumer choices, a ghost has to be in the retail machine, whether it's an algorithm or influencer or some snazzy ed tech to help a product follow you around the internet. I'm sure ये आपने देखा होगा कि अगर आप suppose, I mean, this is very recent on Myntra. I was looking for some curtains for my house, and there's so many other options from different sites that are popping in on my social media. Right, so that's what they're saying. Indeed, choice fatigue is one reason so many people gravitate towards lifestyle influencers. So, like I said, that there's so many options that people would follow some, influencers, and they would take their suggestion, right? The relentlessly chic young moms and perpetually vacationing 20 somethings who present an aspirational worldview and then recommend the products and services that help achieve it, right? So I'm sure this is something which is so relatable with you. तो इसमें आपको वैसे ही जो passages आसान होते हैं या जहाँ relate करना आसान होता है वैसे ही it becomes difficult, easy to absorb the information. So let's read it. So let's further read. For a relatively new class of consumer product startups, so they are saying what is the new trend, right? So there's another different method entirely, right? So instead of making sense of existing stuff, these companies claim to disrupt stuff as Americans know it. So there are few brands, they say Casper, Glossier, or Away. They're giving the these three examples. Casper is for mattresses, Glossier is for makeup, and Away is for suitcases, that are giving consumers freedom from choice. So please keep this in mind. The companies have a few aesthetically pleasing and highly functional options, usually at mid-range prices. So how are they giving freedom from choice? This is explained here. They are selling nice things, but maybe more importantly, they are selling confidence in few things and ability to opt out of stuff rat race, right? So I'm sure it is clear to you. Let's further read this. You can how this is happening. The passage is trying to explain. So let's read. $1,000 mattress and $300 suitcases might solve choice anxiety. But the companies that sell them, along with those that attempt to massage the latest stuff economy into something navigable, are still just working within a consumer market that's broken in systematic ways. So the situation of market is being talked about, right? That situation of market that you might provide some respite because then there are fewer products and be extremely beneficial and then in the range, but how they are working in a consumer market that's broken. Let's see. The presence of so much stuff in America might be more valuable if it were more evenly distributed. मतलब products ज़्यादा distributed होता, but stuff creators tend to focus on their energy on those who are already having plenty. राइट, आप समझ रहे हैं? प्रोडक्ट्स उन्हीं को टारगेट करते हैं यूजुअली, जो ट्रेंड है, जिनके पास स्पेंड करने के लिए मनी है. As options have expanded for people with disposable income, the opportunity to buy even basic things such as fresh food or quality diapers has contracted for American lower class. तो lower class की situation को कह रहे हैं कि उनके पास तो options कम ही हो रहे हैं, right? Because the people are not targeting them. For startups that promise accessible simplicity, their very structure still might eventually push them towards overwhelming variety. Most of these companies are based on hundreds of millions of dollars of venture capital. I'm sure you understand with Shark Tanks, everybody understands that what is the idea of venture capitalism. The investor of which tends to expect a steep growth rate that cannot be achieved by selling one great mattresses or one great sneaker, right? Everybody wants profit. Casper has expanded into bedroom furniture and bed linens. Glossier's, after a year of marketing itself as no makeup that requires little skill to apply, recently launched a fully line of glittering color cosmetics. There may be no way to opt out of stuff buying into the right thing. So how these companies, इनका mention पहले भी हुआ है, तो how they are showing the behavior changing, drifting from what they had started. That's being talked about, right? So I'm sure you're clear with the passage, right? It's very interesting passage, harsh reality. Um, but we can't do anything right here except solving the question. So let's get started. Pay attention to the question and then we will discuss. So let's see the first question. Which of the following hypothetical statements would add the least depth? मतलब least तरीके से contribute करेगा. Where author's prediction of the fate of startups offering new product options is the last paragraph that we read. An exponential surge in their sales enables startups to meet their profit goals without expanding their product catalog. अभी आपने देखा कि कैस्पर फर्नीचर्स पे जा रहा है और ग्लॉसियर ने भी ग्लिटरिंग के प्रोडक्ट्स लॉन्च किए. सो दिस इज पॉसिबली एन आंसर जो कंट्रीब्यूट लीस्ट डेप्थ देगा. With the motive of promoting certain rival companies, the government decides to double the tax rates. So, ये तो clearly eliminate कर दोगे आप. With Casper and Glossier venturing into new products, the regular customers start losing their trust. Yes. Startups with few product options are no exception to American consumerism. Yes. So, what would be the correct answer? A. Quick and easy to solve. So, let's move to the next one. Please try this, then we'll discuss. So most of the questions are coming from the last paragraph. It's very interesting part of this passage. Which of the following best sums up the overall purpose of examples of Casper and Glossier? तो वो यही बता रहे कि Casper और Glossier ने एक certain choice anxiety को reduce करने के aspects से market में explore किया था, but later अभी खुद ही अपने product range को increase कर रहे हैं. They're increasing the purchasing power. कोई company तो purchasing power नहीं increase कर सकती. There are exceptions to dominant trend. पहले थे पर अब नहीं हैं. They are facilitating a uniform disposition of commodities. ये कहीं नहीं बोला. They might transform into which what they were exceptions. So D is a better choice. Exceptions थे जब author ने discussion introduce किया. Towards the end they're saying that they're themselves getting into the race. Right? So let's try this. Interesting question. Numbers में है, आपको मजा आएगा करके. Let's try this. A new food brand plans to launch a series of products. Which product plan is most likely to be supported? ठीक है, तो आप देखिए ऑथर के आइडिया से कौन सा सपोर्ट होगा. A range of 10 products priced between 5 and 10, a range of 10 products dollar this, range of 25 products this, and a range of 10 products with. तो हमने देखा था कि जो कैस्पर और अवे के एग्जांपल्स दिए थे ग्लॉसियर के, उन्होंने कहा था कि कम प्रोडक्ट्स और मिड रेंज प्राइसेस, दिस विल गो बेस्ट, राइट? सिंपल, इजंट इट? लेट्स कम टू द फोर्थ वन. So let's see. So, which of the following, if true, would weaken the argument, except? So, which of the following will not weaken the argument? Product options increase market competition, bringing down the prices, which in turn increase purchasing power of the poor. तो कह रहे poor के लिए तो अभी भी market में कोई options नहीं है. So, this goes out. The annual sales growth of companies with fewer product options were higher than that of companies which curated their products. Of course, this is what the correct answer will look like. The annual sales of companies that hired lifestyle influencers for marketing their products were 40% less than did not. Again, very easy to eliminate. The empowerment felt by purchasers in buying a commodity were directly proportional to number of options they could choose from. No. So, see, such easy questions if you're clear with what the goal is, right? So we can pick B as an answer. Let's try this. Based on the passage, all of the following can be inferred except, मतलब कि आप infer नहीं कर सकते. So let's see. Too many options have made it difficult. Yes. Consumers are susceptible to marketing images that they see on social media. Definitely. Having too many products can be overwhelming. Yes. Consumer tends to prefer products by startups over those established companies. ऐसा हम नहीं बोल सकते. So D is going to be the answer. Right? So that brings us to an end of the discussion. Please keep this in mind. Have a strategic and focused approach while you are dealing with RCs. You will see that your results get better. Keep working hard and don't forget consistency is the key. All the best.